Hi readers, good morning. At least it's morning where I am today, and welcome back to my channel Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. And if it is your first time, maybe this will be a fun experience for you because this is the day that I present my nonfiction reads for the last quarter of 2025, and you get to pick what you think I should read first. So I have done something quite different today and a little unique, and that is that I am choosing only from my Netgalley list of books I have not read because I am focusing on increasing my Netgalley score this year. It is one of my goals, my bookish goals. I had set that goal for like 70%, I think, but clearly that's going to be a long an arduous task if I am able to complete it. But I feel like any progress that I make in the process is a great amount of progress. But this felt like, to me, sort of a stimulation to read some of the non-fiction titles that are on my Netgalley list because I've had them for a while. I haven't gotten to them. And I just feel like I need to get some of that backlist read as well. You know, I'm all about the backlist this year. I know I've said that a lot, but I am reading some new stuff too. So it's not completely backlist, but whenever I can get a backlist title read, I feel a level of joy, even if I don't really like the book, which we'll see. I think I'm going to like any of these, whichever one you pick. I really do. There's a couple on there that I'm thinking, oh, I don't know. But these three have been, attracting me every time I look at the list. So I feel like this is a good thing, and you can decide. So there are, again, three of them. They are all nonfiction as usual, and I will have to read them by the end of December 2025. Now, I will say, spoiler alert, I'm going to change the way that I have you pick my reads in 2026. Like, I'm not going to change the way that I'm going to have you pick. I'm still going to have you choose from three, but I'm going to choose a different category next year. So stay tuned for that. I'll be announcing that probably closer to the end of the year once I'm absolutely positive. I suppose I could change my mind, but I think it's time for me to switch things up. So you might be thinking of ways in which I might be switching it up. And so if you want to put that in the comments below too, you certainly can. But as usual, I'm going to have you vote for my fourth quarter read by the, let's see, I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to say, go ahead and pick my nonfiction read that you think I should choose by the 29th of September. I don't know why I'm picking the 29th of September. It just seems like a good idea, I guess. So that's the deadline. I'll remind you again at the end of the video once I share with you all these titles. So let's get started so you can see what I still have on my Netgalley all this time later. So this one may be a little late to the game, but I still want to read it. It's been one that has caught my attention each time I've been on Netgalley, and this is Robots and the People Who Love Them, Holding On to Our Humanity in an Age of Social Robots. So this has a 3.949 rating, and this was written by Eve Harold, Herold, and Eve Harold has a 3.49 rating on this particular title. This came out in January of 2024, and it is kind of fitting right now because it is about artificial intelligence and robots. However, I think that even since January 9th, 2024, there have been incredible shifts and much more research and development in AI and robotic technology than we probably even had at that time. However, I really thought this would be interesting because recently I have had more and more conversations about AI, about the risk for some people when AI sort of takes away their responsibilities for their job, or some of them. I've had conversations with people about how much they love AI and how much they're using it. I have conversations with people that are coaches like me who think that AI will take over the coaching industry. I don't know that I believe that to be true, but I can see why there is a concern on that level, but this one is definitely about our social nature, which, as you know from social media, is incredible now. And having relationships with others really has shaped us in terms of the lives that we've led and the experiences that we've had. I always say if I hadn't met some of the people that I've met over the years, I would be a different person. So, there's lots of social activity going on, but especially in social media, which is not necessarily the topic of this particular book, I don't think. But I would say that at this point, the amount of AI that's been used to put posts on some of these social media channels is incredible. And it leads people to believe things that are not necessarily true. And it's really that part of this that I really don't like. I hate to use the word hate, but there I just did it twice in one sentence. I think that this book will maybe help me to find some level of awareness about what's happening and how it's influencing our modern life, or at least how it was in January of 2024. So she had drawn upon recent research about social robots, including how people are reacting to them, how people were building the sort of the real and the unreal even then. So I think that that was a factor. And it's a perfect book for anybody who's interested in artificial intelligence or who really wants to understand what it might mean for our future, which I think is important. So this is definitely a nonfiction book about science and technology, which isn't necessarily something that I typically read, maybe why I didn't get to it for this long. But I do think that this is of great interest to me, especially right now. So I have a friend who's a coach who's helping people use AI for their businesses and for their coaching. And yeah, I love her, and I and I appreciate her, and she's taught me a lot, even in a small social setting where she was giving us some tips and tricks. But I still don't think I'm completely there where she is. So that's me right now. But that's the book. And that one is 247 pages. So it's not the smallest on this list, but it's not the largest either. So the largest is Love Me, Fierce and Danger by Stephen Powell. Now, let me just say, I have wanted to read this one for a while, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to this, because you're going to say this is right up your street. They're all three right up my street for one reason or another. It's just a different street. So the subtitle of this is The Life of James Elroy, and this is written by Stephen Powell. This has a rating of 3.98, folks, although not a lot of people have read it so far. And this came out on February 9, 2023, 352 pages. So this one is definitely larger than the others. But this is about an author named James Elroy. And James Elroy's life was very tragic. So his mother was murdered when he was 10 years old. Now, you can't imagine, I can't imagine, unless that's happened to you, what an impact that has on your life. But what it did was it created this road for him that the synopsis calls a long and turbulent road toward writing mysteries and writing about, other things that are similar to this. However, in the meantime, he had an incredible drug addiction. He was an alcoholic. He was homeless, and he served some time in jail as well. We also find out in this research that his mother had been married before she had James, and I don't think maybe he didn't know that, maybe he did, but I'm curious about finding out. So if you're not familiar with James Elroy, and I'm really not either, except for the fact that I know that he's written these classic novels, and one of them is called The Black Dahlia, if you've heard of that, and LA Confidential. So they're very well known in many circles. I just haven't read any of these before, but this is definitely a book about crime and about what happened to James Elroy, and they say it's provocative, and he had a significant impact on American literature. So this is a book that kind of honors that, but also tells his story, because those traumas were really influencing what he ended up doing and what happened to him. But it also, I'm certain, influenced his writing. So that one is Love Me, Fierce and Danger. And again, that's by Stephen Powell, and it's about the life of James Elroy, the author. So That's number two. All right, and then the last one is quite different, although it has sort of a tie to the second one, the one about James Elroy. So this is called Genealogy Basics in 30 Minutes. This is a long subtitle, so I'm going to look at this so I make sure that I get it right. The Quick Guide to Creating a Family Tree, Building Connections with Relatives, and Discovering the Stories of Your Ancestors. This is by Shannon Combs Bennett, and it has a 4.33 rating on Goodreads. Also, though, not too many people have read it. This one is the shortest of the three of these. It is 102 pages, and it came out in January 2021. I'm ashamed to say that I still have books on my Netgalley that were published that long ago. The reason this one appeals to me is that I have long been curious about my genealogy on my father's side. My mother's side of the family, one of my aunts or aunts, depending on what you say, but she liked to be called aunt. She did a huge genealogy project about our family and even had it published into these like homemade books for us. So she copied out, I don't know how many copies, there's several of them, and I still treasure those to this day. They are just filled with information about my family, although the depth of it is only about when they were born, how many children they had, when they died, where they lived, those kinds of things. It's not as much about, like, I love and watch frequently these programs about genealogy and about like how they found out the things that they did, right? Like if they were in the war, I mean, that'll be obvious in some ways too, but if they, like where they served, who they were friends with, were they in newspapers, were they in, different other areas. So we learned different things about what they did. And the guy that I watch is on PBS, and his name is, shoot, if I'm going to remember that. It's called Finding Your Roots, and it's supported by Henry Louis Gates, who I love. Henry Louis Gates Jr., I think. I love him. So I watch that a lot. But I also bought this because I used to have an Ancestry account. Probably I did in 2021. And I was really like having a hard time figuring it out. I had a client who worked for Ancestry, and she doesn't anymore, but she one time said, I can help you with that. And then, of course, if you take a genealogy test, which I have here in my office sitting on a shelf in my closet and have never taken, but if you take that, it opens up a whole nother avenue for you to be able to see where your roots are. However, I haven't done that, and I did let my Ancestry membership go because I wasn't using it. Much like everything else, I want to do something, I have a goal to do something, and then I just don't have the time for it, it seems, or I don't make the time. Now, I am actually going to be doing a video soon, a little bit about books, but also about the experience of overwhelm and some of the things like that. So stay tuned for that because I'm really committed to that and I'm really making notes about that, like just frequently. But in this case, this is one of the things that kind of led me to in that direction, right? Like all the Netgalley things that I haven't done, the genealogy project that I gave up on, it's all still in Ancestry. If I rejoin, I can have access to it. But I really feel like that requires a level of time that at this point in my life, I may not have. So I'm having to prioritize. But this is a good way for me to understand how I can look at this. And maybe it's some ways outside of Ancestry, and maybe it's some ways that I can go back and look at some things that I do have of my dad's. This one interests me because I really want to know more about my dad's side of the family. They were born and the ancestors come from Germany. I also really have this fear that I've had for years that maybe some of my dad's family were Nazis. And so that is maybe a barrier for me. Maybe I didn't want to go that far, but I know that his family that I knew were not like that, and they were not of that opinion. But I think also it was a very different age. And so I'm not really sure what my grandparents thought about certain things. And I definitely didn't know a lot because I was young when my grandpa died. I think I was 7. And my grandma, I was older, but she was not a person who talked. She just did not talk a lot. So I would love to add this one to the list. So you can see I'm excited about all three of these, which when I first started to think about this project, I was like, will I want to read these? I haven't read them for so long. Like, will I really want to read these? And the answer is yes, I do. So I'm excited about that. So again, just to recap, Robots and the People Who Love Them by Eve Harold, which has a very long subtitle as well, and Love Me Fierce and Danger by Stephen Powell, another long subtitle, and Genealogy Basics in 30 Minutes by Shannon Combs Bennett. So you get to choose by the 29th of September, and then in the months of October, November, or December, I will read the one that you pick, and I will read it on my Kindle because that's where it is. So thanks for watching today. Thanks for all of your support, and I can't wait to see in the comments which one you picked. You've got a nice long time to pick them for sure, but I want to make sure that everybody gets the chance to do that, and I might send in a little reminder this time because somebody said to me the last time that that might be good because she forgot to vote. So I'm going to try to remember to do that. I'm going to put it on my calendar and try to be more organized in the next couple of months. I'm hoping to be. This comes out a little earlier than usual, so that made me happy. So I'm feeling good about that. So thanks again for your support, for your comments always. If you want to just leave an emoji in and not vote, that's also fine too. So you can leave an emoji that reminds you of any of these things, maybe a tree for family tree, maybe a beer for poor James Elroy, or perhaps a robot for the AI one, for the social media one. So thanks again so much, and as always, happy reading. Bye.